When I came back to, I thought I was blind. All I could see was darkness. I wanted to see if I was still in this tunnel, in the middle of the forest, or was it all a bad dream? I asked softly, hello? Is anyone there? The same girl as earlier responds back, yes, mister, we're here. I guess it wasn't a dream. I feel my way around till I feel these cold metal bars. Jesus Christ, I'm locked up in this tunnel too. There was a sharp pain in my back. I felt some numbness in my head. I felt around and I touched a certain spot on the top of my head, and I felt another sharp pain. He must have hit me or something. Jesus, was my entire body in pain. The girl quietly asks, what's your name, mister? I respond, Sam. What's yours? Her name is Abigail. I ask her if she's okay, and she says, sorta. I ask about the older woman. She wasn't responding to my questions, though. The girl said she didn't know who she was, and that she didn't talk very much. She's not very talkative. After that little exchange, that's all me and the younger girl talked about. We just sat in the darkness for what felt like hours. There must have been no moonlight, or maybe it was cloudy because I could not see a single thing. There was no light, nothing even coming down from the little hole I fell through earlier. I tried thinking about how to get out of here. Maybe pull some Shawshank Redemption kind of thing. But quickly, I realized I had nothing to even make a shiv with, and it probably wouldn't work anyways. The entire tunnel was actually made of brick. Whoever made this went through lengths to make sure no one could just get out. I could hear them again, those same boots as before. They were walking much slower and much louder, but they were getting closer and closer again. Finally, there was light. Though, not exactly for the reasons I would have liked to see light. He shined it right at me and said, it's your turn. I asked for what, scared of the answer. What kind of thing is that for a killer to say? Your turn. My turn to what? To die? He said, and I'm not kidding, she's useless. You're gonna burn her for me, you understand? He handed me a blowtorch and some firewood. You made a fire before, right? I didn't say anything. That got me kicked in the stomach. There wasn't anything there for me to puke up. I guess there was the benefit of being starving. Well, you're gonna make one tonight, you understand? I again didn't say anything. What the hell was I supposed to say to that? I wasn't gonna kill someone. Are you kidding me? This time, he slapped me in the head nice and hard. The lady started screaming again. She was screaming something unintelligible. I've hit her too many times, it appears. Guess one more won't do no harm. And I heard a loud thwack, and the lady went silent once more. The little girl had woken up and asked what had happened. The man shined the flashlight on her. She was also wearing a yellow dress, same as the girl I had seen in the forest. She didn't look like my sister Julie, though. Could it have been the same girl? I wasn't sure at all. The man told her to go back to sleep. Again, he told me to burn the woman. He told me to respond or he'd kill the little girl. No one made any noise. There was no noise from anyone for a split second. The little girl didn't say anything, nor did the killer whose flashlight was looking me right in my eyes. The light hurt after hours of complete darkness. I said no. I felt a metal boot dig right into my side. I actually heard the crack in my rib, and boy, did I feel it. And it hurt so bad. I could barely breathe afterwards. He turned the blowtorch on and threw the firewood onto the lady. I honestly could not believe what I was actually seeing. The blowtorch started to glow on the wood. The wood took to fire immediately. Must have been coated in gasoline or something. I've never seen wood just do that. The smell from the smoke smelled sweet and sappy though. Not really sure what was going on here in general. The lady woke back up, and I saw the look on her face. She looked purely and firmly terrified. Her eyes were covered in tears, and they just stared in shock. Then, she started screaming again. The killer threw the firewood on top of her, and her clothes started going on fire. She screamed so loud, you could feel it. All of her life's emotions, her friends and family, all of them, all of those emotions you heard in those screams. I finally plead for help. A scream to the heavens if there was one. It was a blood-curdling scream, but it didn't frighten me. The situation frightened me more, but the scream made me cry like a baby. This woman was dying. I got up and ran towards her, but he had closed the gate to my cell again. All I could do was watch this poor woman burn. The little girl started to scream too. She kept asking for help. Finally, the girl said something I could relate to. She didn't scream this, she just said it. I want it all to stop. I understand that, but let's be honest. What I'm going through is nowhere near as bad as what this poor girl has probably gone through. The smoke started to fill the tunnel. The woman's screams finally stopped, and the sweet sappy smell the wood burned as it turned into a disgusting, overburnt flesh. And it was absolutely disgusting. I was breathing in the ashes of a dead woman I didn't even know. The smoke just got worse and worse. I heard the girl coughing and crying for help. We both were yelling at this point. The man was gone, it seemed. We were screaming and I heard a bunch of other people screaming as well. Other girls. It sounded like there were even little boys in here as well. Jesus Christ, how many kids were in this tunnel? Honestly, none of my words can properly convey the scene. There must have been dozens of kids in the tunnel. It seemed like there was different sections of it. I have no idea how to explain it. It was just horrible. I heard dogs barking in the distance. Their barks grew and grew. Through the hole at the top of the tunnel, a flashlight shone in. A man with a deep voice yelled down, "Is anyone there?" I screamed, "Yes." The little girl didn't respond. I hope she was okay. I could barely breathe myself, between the smoke and my broken rib. Suddenly, a bunch of police came storming into the tunnel. A dozen flashlights were on us. The girl was knocked out, and so were a bunch of other kids. They started looking at the kids and asking if they were alright. One cop came over to call and shine the light in. "Is that him?" asked the cop. Another responded, "He fits the description. Lock the bastard up. Rough him up a bit while you're at it." Are you kidding me? The killer must have murdered that lady. Then called the cops or something. He must have gave them my description. He won. He set me up and got away with it. I was already beaten up pretty badly, but the police couldn't resist having some fun hurting an alleged serial killer. I wouldn't blame them if they had the right guy. The first one was actually the body of the lady the psycho had burned alive. She was contorted and her mouth was still open, but she was burnt pretty badly. Her skin was melted and parts of her looked crisp. I think I caught a glimpse of some bone. There was no life left in her, yet still so much movement. She must have really wanted to keep living. That was a strange thing to see. The next one out was a young boy in a blue striped shirt. The shirt was all bloody, but he looked like he was still alive. At least, that's why I imagine the medics rushed him into an ambulance and not the lady. So you tried burning the place to the ground before we got here, huh? You sicko. The cop pulled me out of the trance. I was waiting for the girl who was across my cell. The one in the yellow dress. Officer, I swear to you it wasn't me. Why would I lock myself in the cell? The cop retorted, I don't know. I don't have the mind of a sicko. Playing chess games, I'd imagine. That's a fair point. Maybe I locked myself in there to fool the police. Then where's the guy who called the police? I asked. The cop said he left because I tried burning the place to the ground and he wanted to get out of there, logically. I tried explaining that the killer's fingerprints would be everywhere. He said they were sure forensics would prove them right. Finally, the girl in the yellow dress came out. She was coughing something fierce. Look, officer, ask the girl. The real man set the place on fire and locked me up. As her. Ask the girl, huh? You mean the one that can't talk because you almost killed her? Officer, I swear I'm being set up. You don't have the right guy. He's using me as bait to get away. He's still out there. He left and is on the run. If I get locked up, he'll move somewhere else and keep killing young kids. This will never end. I needed to end this. I don't believe in no God. Not really. Not a church-going person at all. But if perhaps destiny wants me to save some kids, I'm gonna do my damn best to do it. Make lemonade out of lemons, right? That kind of stuff. He threw me in the car. You say one more word and I'll knock those teeth out for ya. Understand? He radioed another police officer. Hey Jim, this is Alex. I've got the perp. He's a little beaten up from the guy who found them, but it's definitely him. I would have said something, but I knew this officer wasn't going to listen to me. I would have to wait till I got back to the station, or I had to gain this officer's trust somehow. Prove that I wasn't the guy they were looking for. Officer, I know where the evidence is. I buried it somewhere. Jesus, that was stupid to say without any context. What is wrong with me? The officer looked back at me and said, We already found the evidence. That's a fair point. Nothing in that little box matters anymore, now that they have an entire underground tunnel system. I noticed the sun was rising. Some blues and yellows began to emerge above the tree line. The ambulances put their sirens on. There must have been 5 of them. The police cars led the way. The whole convoy took a while to exit that part of the forest we were on. They followed the small trail. I saw the cabin that I hid in the storm from. That feels like a lifetime ago already. I think that was yesterday though, wasn't it? It didn't look any different in the morning sunlight. It just looked as terrifying. There were a ton of bumps and bangs along the road. I noticed the officers would look back often to make sure the ambulances were okay. One of them turned back to me and asked, "So how long have you been here? How many have you killed?" The other cop told him to stop talking to me. The drive out of the forest through the path took quite a while. Must have been at least half an hour. The sun had risen up by that time and the temperature was starting to rise again slowly. When we finally got back on a real road, it felt so nice and smooth. The road was clearly old as well, all cracked up. It didn't look like anyone had driven on this road in a while. I noticed a lot of the leaves were dead, which is pretty strange for the middle of summer. There were some bare trees even. It was intense just how much like the fall this one part of the forest looked like. It was unsettling. It looked like the police were unsettled by it too. "What the hell is that?" the one cop yells out. I draw my head up as the car comes to a sudden stop. My neck lurched forward, and my head hit the gate in the car. After I rubbed my head, I looked out the window and saw her. The other girl in the yellow dress. The one that looked just like Julie. She was on the ground crying. She looked as pale as a ghost. The police jumped out of the car immediately and ran over to her. The poor girl could barely stand up. Her dress was all torn and her feet looked bloody by this point. I wondered what happened to her sneakers. They finally get her back up, and she vomits a bit on one of the officers. It looks like she got sick too. She is clearly mumbling something at them while crying. The police officers stare back at me in the car. They stand the girl up and bring her over to me. "Excuse me, little girl, but is this the man who hurt you?" She said, "I don't know. Say something." So I said, "Hi, are you okay?" She shook her head back and forth. "No, not him." The officers looked instantly panicked. They were looking around as if they were deer caught in the headlights. They rushed the girl back over to the ambulance. Suddenly, the ambulances drove by, being led by 2 cop cars. It was just our car in the middle of this forest. "Backup should be coming in a little bit. I think we should just hang tight." One came over to my window. "Hey, who are you then?" I said as calmingly as I could. "I'm a guy he kidnapped to set me up as the killer, just as I told you." I gestured to the handcuffs. "Can you please uncuff me?" He looked at me. I saw the sweat pouring out of his face. He unlocked the cuffs and asked if I was alright. I told him I was fine, but he didn't seem to care. I noticed the 2 of them kept moving their heads back and forth like nervous birds. I picked up on the feeling as well. They were right. They were being watched. "Hey man, I have a strange feeling here. Where's this backup?" The other one just shrugged. The feeling was getting worse, and the forest quieted down. Someone else was definitely here. By which way? In front of us. To the side over the slope in the forest. Behind those bushes, up that slope, or down the road behind the trees. The feeling is only so useful. We all know someone was watching us. Not one of us knew where he was. Bang! Bang! 2 gunshots ring out. The police officers fall like bad mannequins. Their bodies made a loud thud as they hit the ground. I looked around trying to see where the shots came from. The forest went quiet. Nothing moved. There was no way of telling where the bullets had come from. I peeked out the door and saw the blood pouring out of one of the officers. Then I saw his gun. I looked around one more time and saw nothing. Why didn't he shoot me too? Maybe he didn't see me in the back. But then again, why shoot the police at all? Staying in the car just felt like a bad idea. If I was gonna do it, I wanted one of their guns. The door was already open on the driver's side. All I had to do was move over and grab the gun and hide back in my car. Sounds simple enough, but I knew this could easily be screwed up. I took a deep breath and moved my arm towards the officer. My body began to slide out of the car and hit the pavement. I stopped there. No sounds. Nothing. Just the quiet forest. I unhooked the gun and grabbed and jolted back into the car. I looked at it and said to myself, well, at least you have a gun now. So why wasn't the killer waiting to shoot me too? Why did he leave me? If he had waited around, he would have seen that I was still in the car. Honestly, this is one time my brain was useful during this entire charade. I thought he wanted me to get caught in the car with 2 dead police officers. Now, to add to the problem, I have a gun. One of their guns. I couldn't stay in the car and wait for reinforcements. The time to dip was now. I took a chance. One of the flip the coin things, and opened the passenger side door on the right side of the car. I did it as slowly as I could, so that I could listen for movement in the forest as I did it. I put my right foot out, and once it had touched the street, I ran for a bush. I crouched down in the bushes and just waited for the reinforcements. Nothing else I could do. Once they came, I would drop the gun and say I got scared and ran here after the cops got shot. It was quiet, but I had the feeling I was being watched again. Maybe the killer had returned. I tried to listen, but with all the leaves, wind, and everything else, I couldn't really hear much. I looked to the cop car and I see him. I crouched back into the trees to make sure I was covered. He looked in the car. He must have been looking for me. He had a rifle. I'm not sure what type, but it looked like the kind a hunter would use. I stared at him like a hawk. And then, suddenly, his head popped to make eye contact with me. And he stared at me like a hawk. He went for his rifle, and my brain kicked into full gear, and I said screw it. I got out the gun and pulled the trigger. Thankfully, it was loaded, and the safety wasn't on because in that moment, I was too stupid to care about that. I let out a few shots, and the killer ran behind the car. He started firing some shots, and I fired another 2. I looked at the gun. It wasn't a revolver or anything, and I had no extra bullets. How was I supposed to win? I shot one last time, and the gun just made a clicking noise. There was nothing left in it. When I looked back towards the car, I didn't see him again. I had no idea where he went, but now I was out of bullets and scared. The sirens started as a faint echo, but then the crescendo of sirens as multiple cop cars pulled up to the one I was in. I saw a few officers rush up the hill on the other side of the street, guns and dogs ready. I threw the weapon down and came out saying, "Help me. Please, just help me." I broke down. Any composure I had left was gone. I started bawling, and this one cop came over and asked if I was okay and who I was. A few seconds later, I heard more shots go out. A few more, and then it was quiet all again. The radio on the officer who was comforting me went off. We got him. He resisted, but we got him. That's basically the end. They took me to a hospital in Long Island. I had to be treated for dehydration and a stomach virus. I know it's been a whole month since I updated you guys, but the police had to go through my computer, and eventually they ended up destroying it for me. They never pressed charges for me going on the dark web. I did find out though, the girl in the yellow dress was a cancer survivor. Her name was Julia, and her family was happy to have her back. She was in the same hospital as me. Not even gonna lie, I cried when I heard that. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I appreciate it a lot. And also, big thanks to my patrons, and if you want to support me, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. And if you want to hear more scary stories in the future, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Thank you.